Hey everyone, welcome back to JIB. So recently one of our subscriber attended the Capgemini interview in which he got selected. There were a total of 3 rounds. The first one was L1 technical round, the second round was a manager round plus technical round, and the third one was HR round. He shared some of the interview questions with us, which I am going to discuss in this video. This will be a compilation video for all the questions and answer with the mock candidate. I will share the correct answer to any question on the screen as well. I will mention the question in the timeline as well, so you can jump around to any question whichever you want to watch. But I recommend you to watch the entire video. So let's begin the video. What are the coding standard you follow while coding?
Basically, there are few coding standards I would say, like the variable names should be sensible enough when we are giving, since it's an industry code. It should be meaningful. Apart from that, your code, the new method you introduce always should have a Java docs. It should be specifying your purpose of using your parameters and return statement, what it does actually. Apart from that, like, your code should not be a recursive, a loop inside a loop which is calling another loop. So in that case, you have to optimize that code, because all the all the data should be, I won't say it is always possible that to bring all the data in a one call, but try to minimize the database round trip, which would improve our performance. And apart from that, yeah, do not try to use much strings. Try string builder or other functions, because string takes more of memory referencing. Do not use maps unnecessarily or keep it open. Keep your connections close. These are the few standards I think which is necessary while writing a code. And yeah, again, dividing a functionality. So when you're writing a functionality, it should not happen that you are pushing everything together. Yeah, you have to stick to the solid principles, where you writing a functionality has to be independent enough related to that particular.
uh, how you are handling exception in the case of Spring Boot?
Okay, exceptions can be through controller advice also,
Yeah.
but what we are doing, we are not using controller advice that much. We are using try-catch, simple try-catch only.
Okay.
So we somewhere, if we are getting a customized exception, like there is a third-party FDS where we have a lot of data from there, like customized exception. So we create that customized exception with runtime exception, and then the whatever the constructors we need to provide with the value. And whenever I'm getting that exception, then I'm putting this try. If I'm reading something from FDS, and then we give an exception, so I'll just catch it into the catch block, and I'm putting this throw new this FDS registration exception with the what is the error message that I have. So this way I'm handling it. Or if any throws like the compile time exception. So Eclipse itself gives like you need to throw this exception, and when I'm writing to the file. So IO file not found exception, IO exception we need to handle. Those all things are defined with Eclipse.
Okay. What is the difference between truncate and drop and delete?
Truncate usually only deletes the records of the inside the particular table. Delete also does the same. If you like delete stuff from just the table name and you do not specify the where clause, it will also do the same. The problem with the delete clause is that whenever it runs, since it's a DML statement, it has a memory. I don't remember the name, so where it's undo memory, I would say. So where it exactly puts all the records, like this record is deleted, and it will keep pile up in the memory unless until the transaction is committed. This does not happen with the truncate statement, because the truncate is a DDL clause, and with DDL operations we have an commit by default, so which causes that the population of the undo statements, undo space, that doesn't take place, and it is much faster than that. Drop is also again a DDL statement, which will completely delete your table or the structure that you have.
What is the use of prototype bean in Spring?
Yeah, prototype bean is used means that when a new instance actually created for every request, it's called actually the prototype bean. The new instance is created for each request, that is called the prototype bean.
And what is the use of that? I mean, why they introduce prototype bean? In the Spring, you have Singleton, You have a prototype. Okay.
Mm.
So what can be the practical use of prototype bean?
If we create, okay, singleton is like only one instance getting created. Prototype is something like more than one instance if we need, like every time whenever we are making a hit or we are calling a method or we are creating a class.
Yeah.
So in that case, we need a new instance.
Yeah.
So in that case, we are creating a prototype. If I have an employee class and that employee has got different values, like suppose employee ID this, that and all those values. So that needs to be created as an object. Another object, there is one more person whose value should be stored in this value, like in this particular different object. So that needs to be created with employee and different object. So in that case, I think we require prototype this as different object and this is different object.
Yeah. So recently we had a Java vulnerability, Log4j vulnerability. So do you know
Yes.
about that?
Yeah, I did heard about it. So basically, what was happening? It was happening in log 4j 1.4. Any version above, so log 1 was fine, and log 2.4 is also fine for that. So basically, that version was exposing it to. Basically, it was giving one. It was a security threat where it was giving an entire access to your. Anybody can access your log. We done remediation where we have removed those jars, and again we have introduced the new jars of log4j. Apart from I exactly don't remember what was the security cause which has happened, but yeah, I has gone through it. We use so basically we are trying to move that, not an exact log4j, SLM log4j is there, where which is quite better than log4j in case of, but some SLMF we call it. It is quite famous and it has been recommended to use by our senior architects in our project. So we are moving from log4j to over there. But yeah, this is one of the issue I remember which has happened prior to 4 to 5 months back, where one of the organization has suffered because of that log4j security.
What are the disadvantages you feel while working with microservices?
Okay, so disadvantages of microservices, like, means you need to create a very large scale architecture, that there are so many components, so many actually monitoring and managing actually involved when we actually create a microservice application. Means it is actually beneficial for a large scale application to make it a it as a microservice, but not for smaller scale application. Means yeah, not good for a smaller scale application, because so many monitoring and managing actually yeah involves here, and we need also that expertise on those fields, means who will manage these things. They need to be yeah very expertise on all those technologies and all.
Why string is immutable? String is immutable, right? It is immutable. Yes. To increase the performance, yes, of application. So you don't need to create multiple objects. There will be no multiple objects if we are using multiple strings. Okay, so in Spring framework, what are the different annotations you have used?
Yes, like Spring Boot application, that is the main one we have used, that and REST controller and component and get mapping, put mapping. Those things I have used, and like aggregate value and those annotations I have used.
Okay. Suppose you have some other services as well which you don't have access. So how you are testing the like output or anything from that? Are you mocking?
Yes, we are
Which framework you are using for that?
Mockito.
Mockito. Okay. So in Spring, what are the different features you have used? Have you used AOP?
Yes, I have used aspect oriented programming.
Yeah.
So mainly I have used it for the point cut notations for that particular thing. So for the I have defined some of the point cuts to trigger the particular methods
Yeah.
as per the requirement. So add rate before, add rate after, those things are those point notations.
Why you have used it in your project? What is the purpose it is solving?
Coming to that one example, like a login example.
Yeah.
So before the logging, I want to do some operations so that I can define some address before. So and I can define that particular thing as exact for that URL matching I will do. So that what will happen like before the logging itself, so it will do some operations. So after doing the sign out, so some things I want to do as a part of that particular thing. So I will use it for address after. So those purposes it got defined for that particular thing.
Yes.
So not only for that particular thing, it will be useful for the logging purpose. So whenever you are doing something, so before the action, we can define something and some whatever like those advices we can use it wherever we want.
Okay, correct. So apart from logging, there are multiple things it can be used. What are the advantages of using triggers in MySQL?
Triggers means like a multiple things is happen when you are going to database, you are going to use the trigger, means some operation if you want to do before some task is there, and that things we are going to trigger that. So you need to create the trigger. You are going to write when some DDL operation if you want to do that, like create the trigger, or like your table name, or like if you want to drop the table, alter the table. So some trigger you need to write on that
What type of design patterns you have used?
design patterns like a conditional behavior, a structural design pattern we are going to use. Conditional is like some creating the object. Singleton is there, or session factory is there, or like you are going to factory, we are going to define on that. And the structural, some like a chain responsibility or proxy related. So that things we are going to use on that.
So have you used directly used proxy design pattern, or have you created itself in your project anywhere?
Yeah, we are created the proxy design pattern. We are going to create it on that somewhere like our some like a URL, like if we are going to flip flop concept, we are going to use at that time like a multiple URL we need to provide for the host. So there is like we are going to use proxy means what? Like proxy means like we are going to provide you some replica of that the original application to use that things. It's like some access related things we are going to provide.
What is the actual use of immutable objects in Java?
Immutable objects means once we create a objects, we can't change the value. We can't change the value of object. So by using final, we can do a we can make any object, sorry, any class or any variables or method immutable. Means if we use final keyword with any variables, so we can't reinitialize that. Means if I have variable final integer I equals to 10, so I can't assign that variable to new value for same object. And if we make our class is final, so that we can't extend that class. And if we make our method is final, so that time we can't override that method.
Yeah. So how do we use the immutable object? Means if you can't create a new object by yourself by new keyword, how do you get that? Or how do you set the value in that object?
No, we can create an object, but whatever object at the creating at the time of creation of objects, whatever we value set to that object, we can't change that again. Means if I have object A and that object contains some string values and leave the string but integer value and other value. So once I set that value, I can't change that. So by using yes, there is another one I forgot to mention that. So there is only setters, not sorry. There is only getters, not setters. So we can't set the value.
Yeah, correct.